everybody. Sara Martin with Sustainabillies here in the mountains of western North Carolina. I've been getting a lot of questions from folks about how do I grow in clay soil, or how do I get my garden beds to perform well. And one of the most important things about your garden is your soil. So often I'll have people say, oh, I'm just going to plant a huge garden and I'm just not going to worry about the soil, and they get very little food. But people who have really well-tended gardens with healthy, vibrant soil can produce more food in a much smaller space. And so it's really worth it to invest the time and energy, and sometimes the money, into improving your soils for your plants. Here at Two Trees Farm, where we live, we have got a lot of raised beds. Our soil was really poor when we bought the property, and we also have an incredibly high water table due to us being part of a high elevation wetland ecosystem. And so what we do is we create raised beds. Here's one of our raised beds, and we're renovating it right now. This is exactly the process that you would go through if you were wanting to create a new bed in a different location. The first thing that we've done is we've come in and we've removed the vegetation. You got to get those roots out. You can't just go across the top with a weed eater and chop them up. You got to get in here and get out the roots. One of the key things for really getting this done and doing a good job is using the right tool. In a raised bed like this, I'm going to be using just a hand tool. And if you've got a bigger garden, you can actually use, a lot of times people use a sodding tool that actually just scrapes that top layer off. After you remove all of the weeds and get your bed prepped, what we did was we dug this big trench. We're taking just digging a trench. Depending upon what you want to grow, you're going to base the size of your trench on your plants you're going to be planting. Our trench we've created inside of here, is a little bit more than a foot wide and about a foot deep. And we've just removed all the material out of the trench. We did have a really nice garden soil here, but over the years it's become really compacted, it's become wet. It's gotten real heavy, and it's just not really productive anymore. And so we're wanting to get more organic material, more nutrients, and a little bit of drainage into this soil. So what we're doing for our first step is we have actually added perlite into this trench. Perlite is actually a mineral. You can actually pick it up at the gardening store. It may look really familiar to a lot of you. It's found in almost every single potting soil mix. You can just buy big bags of it, and it's great for helping with drainage, helping your soil to hold a little bit of water, which I know that sounds a little contradictory, and also helping hold nutrients in your soil. And so we're adding a little bit of perlite. If you have a really, really dry location, do not add perlite to your soil. That will only magnify your problems. Here in western North Carolina, it's wet. It rains a lot. And where we've already got some really moist soils, we really want to help these raised beds to drain well. If you live somewhere where it's incredibly dry and you don't get a lot of rain, what you're going to want to add into here is going to be peat moss, coconut coir fiber, or another material that's actually going to help hold that moisture in your soil. After we add those amendments based on our soil moisture level, we're going to add amendments to increase the organic material as well as the nutrients. And so we've added some of our compost that we make here at the farm. We compost this from beer grain, coffee grounds, all of our vegetable material off of the farm, our household compost, paper. We've got a wood shop down the road that we get wood from. Any kind of natural material can be composted. And we compost that, and so what we've done is we filled that trench in with compost. So it looks like nothing's been done here, but this whole middle section is this really soft, rich compost here, and then we've got our native soils on the side. Then what we did was we came in and we broke those native soils up. You can see how wet our soil was. Look at how clumpy it was. That's not good. You don't want your soil to be clumpy like that when you dig down in there. Especially, we didn't even do this after it rained. So we got in here, we broke up all these big chunks of soil, and we brought that all back to the middle to cover up that trench. Then what I did is I came in and I double dug a little bit on the sides down into that material that I didn't remove when we dug our trench. We pushed it all together, and then I came in and put another top dressing of compost just across the top of the whole thing. And then here you can see where I've double dug down into all of it. I've mixed it all together, and look at this beautiful soil. It's soft, it's friable. I can stick my tool right down into it. This is going to be great for growing some material. You can see there's a weed there that escaped through this process. This is going to be a great soil for growing. And this is what we did to our other garden beds over here. And you can see how happy our lettuce is. It's growing really, it's doing great in these garden beds, these revamped beds. And so you can use this to revamp an old raised bed. You can use this to actually create a new raised bed. And if you have really terrible soil, you can essentially just do this in the ground, creating kind of like a raised bed in place. It won't be up above the soil surface, but it'll be almost the same thing because it'll be essentially in a pot in that clay soil. And then you can do that in between the next year, and eventually you can actually create a really nice area for growing. Thanks a lot for joining us today, and I hope you guys make some really nice garden beds.